Deep into Meditation. Inspired by Krishnamurti. Written and published by Audible Aria. Krishnamurti, 1895 to 1986, was an Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher known for his teachings on self-inquiry, psychological freedom, and the nature of thought. Discovered by the Theosophical Society as a child and believed to be a world teacher, Krishnamurti later rejected all religious and spiritual organizations advocating for a pathless approach to truth. He emphasized personal transformation through self-awareness, questioning societal norms, and understanding the mind's conditioning. Krishnamurti traveled globally, speaking to diverse audiences about the importance of individual freedom and inner change. His influential works include The First and Last Freedom and Freedom from the Known. His teachings continue to inspire people worldwide. Meditation, at its core, involves much more than just sitting quietly or closing your eyes to escape the chaos around you. The word meditation itself has multiple layers of meaning. On one level, it signifies the act of deep thinking or reflection, a process where one explores thoughts, feelings, and experiences with great depth and sincerity. But the term also carries the idea of measuring or evaluating, analyzing, comparing, and discerning. It suggests a mindful examination of one's inner world, a process that involves both introspection and critical assessment. When we approach the concept of religion, meditation becomes even more essential. Often, religion is perceived in a purely intellectual manner, a set of beliefs, doctrines, or ideas that are debated, discussed, and analyzed. Alternatively, some people view religion through a romantic lens, seeing it as a collection of rituals, symbols, or traditions that bring comfort or beauty to life. However, both of these approaches can be limiting. To genuinely understand what religion is or could be, it requires going beyond these surface-level interpretations. This deeper understanding demands that we are free from fear, inner conflict, and preconceived notions. Fear and conflict cloud our judgment. They create a veil that prevents us from seeing clearly. If we are afraid of the unknown, afraid of losing what we hold dear, or afraid of questioning deeply held beliefs, we cannot truly explore what religion means at its essence. Similarly, if our minds are caught in conflict, whether it's conflict between desires, conflict between beliefs, or conflict within relationships, our understanding remains fragmented and incomplete. To explore whether there is something genuinely sacred, something beyond the ordinary experiences of daily life, or to uncover what might be called truth, one must realize that this journey is not about accumulating more knowledge, following specific religious practices, or seeking out different spiritual experiences. It is not about jumping from one guru to another, adopting various spiritual teachings, or continuously seeking new experiences that promise enlightenment or fulfillment. Instead, what is needed is meditation, a profound inner stillness and attentiveness that allows for direct perception. Meditation, in this sense, is not an activity with a defined beginning or end. It is not about sitting quietly for a set amount of time or following a prescribed technique. Rather, it is a state of being fully present and aware, where the mind is free from distraction, judgment, and attachment. It is in this state of undisturbed clarity that one might come to understand the deeper aspects of life and existence. In such a meditative state, one begins to see things as they are, without distortion. The mind is quiet, not filled with the noise of conditioned thoughts, opinions, or emotions. In this silence there is a space where truth, if there is such a thing, can reveal itself. This is not a truth that can be sought after or achieved through effort. It is a truth that unfolds naturally when the mind is in a state of meditation, free from the clutter of fear, conflict, and the endless search for more. Only in this space of pure observation, without the interference of the ego or the pursuit of an agenda, can one begin to glimpse what might be sacred or transcendent. Therefore, if one truly wishes to understand religion, or to explore the possibility of a sacred reality beyond words and concepts, one must approach it with a mind that is both deeply reflective and profoundly quiet. This is the essence of meditation, an open, clear, and attentive state that allows for true understanding and discovery. Now, why is it important to meditate at all? Meditation means more than just thinking deeply about something. It also involves measuring or evaluating. However, true meditation is about being completely free from this kind of measurement. Measurement involves comparison, like thinking, I am this now, but I will be that later. It's about comparing where you are with where you want to be. Imagine living your daily life without comparing yourself to anything or anyone. Have you ever tried that? It means living without examples or goals, without focusing on the future or constantly thinking about how you compare to others. This type of life, free from comparison, is a part of true meditation. In meditation, the brain should be free from comparison, except when it's necessary for practical reasons like choosing car or clothes. But can you live without comparing yourself to others? If you do, you might also find that conflicts within yourself start to disappear. Meditation is not about practicing a technique or repeating a mantra. You may know the term mantra, but do you understand its meaning? The word mantra actually means to ponder or reflect deeply and to stop self-centered activity. Repeating a mantra without understanding its meaning is just a game. It doesn't have real value if you don't grasp what it represents. So meditation is about being free from fear and conflict, which we've discussed before. It also involves ending the constant stream of thoughts. The challenge is whether thought, which is tied to time, can come to a stop. Without complete freedom, the brain remains limited, and the limitless and timeless aspects of existence cannot be experienced. Now, is it ever possible to stop the constant creation of images and thoughts, both about the big picture and the specifics? Can this flow of thinking come to an end? True meditation is really about stopping this movement of thought. It's not about practicing meditation for 20 minutes in the morning and evening, or following a specific system. That kind of practice isn't real meditation. Real meditation means completely ending the creation of mental images and letting go of all psychological knowledge so that the mind is truly free from the past. This is the essence of meditation. It's not about achieving a specific result, and whether you're seeking results or not is entirely up to you. Imagine listening to a long talk or sermon. There's a story about a preacher who would speak to his followers every morning. He would stand up and talk for a short time, sharing his thoughts on life and behavior. One morning, as he was speaking, a bird landed on the windowsill. The preacher stopped talking, and everyone listened to the bird. When the bird flew away, the preacher simply said, "The sermon is over for this morning. The key to really understanding and observing more deeply is to end thought. It's as simple as that. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be." Think of it like learning to swim. If you want to swim, you have to learn how. Your desire to swim must be stronger than your fear of the water. In the same way, the importance of ending thought is crucial because thought, by its nature, is limited. It has its own space and order. When we stop the activity of limited thought, we create space. This isn't just any space, but space without limits. It's not the kind of space the self creates around itself, but a boundless space. When thought realizes its own limitations and sees how these limitations are causing problems in the world, that very realization helps bring thought to an end. This is because there's a desire to discover something new. Take, for example, an engineer who has spent years working with internal combustion engines. If he wants to discover something new, he needs to set aside his old knowledge. By doing so, he can see and invent something different, like the jet engine. He understood the old technology fully, but knew he needed to move beyond it to make new discoveries. Similarly, if you see that thought is limited, and whatever it creates is also limited, you'll understand that to explore beyond those limits, thought itself must end. This isn't about stopping thought entirely, but about recognizing that thought has its boundaries. When thought ends, there is space and silence. Meditation, then, is about understanding and ending the concept of measurement and comparison in our minds. Measurement involves comparison, and to truly meditate, we need to stop comparing ourselves or our experiences. Thought, by its very nature, is always limited. It may dream of the limitless, but it's still bound by its own limits. When thought ends, the mind becomes quiet and still, not because of any forced discipline, but because it understands the truth of its limitations. This silence in the mind is beyond time and thought. It's not something that can be measured or named, it's the unnameable. In this silence and space, something new can emerge, something untouched by time and thought. This might be the most sacred or profound experience, though it can't be labeled. When we reach this state, we find true intelligence, compassion, and love. Life then becomes a unified process, a complete living whole. When a person experiences a deep sense of emptiness and is no longer acting out of self-interest, their actions are grounded in daily life. You can only judge their true nature through their daily actions. Are they hypocritical, saying one thing and doing another? Are they truly living out compassion, not just feeling it? If you're not doing the same, you can't truly judge. You can't express the unique quality of a mind through words alone. You might describe it or circle around it, but you can't capture its essence. For instance, someone like David might be able to discuss complex ideas with Einstein or with me up to a point. If he has this sense of emptiness, I can get close to understanding it, but I can't fully grasp that state unless I experience it myself. Is there a way to communicate this quality without words, to someone who is open to understanding? It's not about saying, I feel compassionate, which is wrong. In daily life, such a mind acts without ego and might make mistakes but corrects them immediately without holding on to them. We need to be careful not to use this as an excuse for wrongdoing. So when we talk about meditation, what does it really mean? If a person is becoming or being, meditation doesn't hold much meaning. This is a significant point. If there's no becoming or being, then what is meditation? Meditation should be completely unconscious, meaning it happens without any deliberate intention. Is the universe or cosmic order in a state of meditation? If it's alive, perhaps we should consider it that way. The universe seems to be in a state of order, sunrises, sunsets, the stars, planets, all in perfect order. Now, meditation has different meanings. It can mean to reflect, to turn something over in your mind, or to measure. But in the context of our discussion, let's leave out the idea of order. Meditation isn't just about weighing or pondering. The word contemplate comes from temple, which originally meant to create an open space. This suggests a mental space where you can observe. Dhyana, a Sanskrit word for meditation, doesn't carry the same connotations as meditation in English. Meditation often implies measurement or order, but this isn't the focus here. Instead, think of a state of infinity or boundlessness. There's no division or measurement in this state. Even though we use many descriptions, it's not fully captured by any of them. Is there an awareness of the mind itself in this state? At times, we've talked about the mind emptying itself of content. The idea is not that the mind is constantly cleaning up the past, but rather that it has emptied itself completely. The past, with its content, anger, jealousy, beliefs, attachments, needs to be completely cleared out. If any of this content remains, it will inevitably lead to illusion. The mind or brain must be entirely free from illusions created by desire, hope, or the need for security. Now, is it possible to live in this world, with all its noise and distractions, and still achieve total freedom from all traditions and knowledge, except where knowledge is absolutely necessary? This is a very challenging question. Knowledge often gets in the way of true perception. Now, meditation really, it's not about learning how to meditate or following a specific system. Meditation isn't about the methods or practices that different gurus or schools teach. These systems, whether Hindu, Tibetan, Zen, or any other, often come with their own routines and can become commercialized. True meditation involves understanding the deeper meaning behind the word itself. In its original sense, Meditation means to measure or evaluate, not just to think or ponder. Measurement involves comparison, like judging something as better, worse, bigger, or smaller. According to what I'm saying, where there is comparison, there is no true meditation. So can we end the constant comparison, both mentally and externally? This is a crucial part of meditation. To truly meditate means to end all forms of comparison, whether it's about being tall or short, beautiful or not. All these comparisons are part of the self. Where there is measurement, there is self. Imagine living your daily life without any form of comparison. You would then experience the extraordinary quality of the brain. The brain would have its own natural movement and stability. It doesn't mean it won't change, but it will be stable and strong. Meditation also means freeing yourself from the web of words and thoughts. When the brain is not caught up in patterns or measurements, it finds true silence. This silence is essential and has its own unique quality. Have you ever listened to an old tree when there's no wind and all its leaves are still? There's a sound in that absolute silence. A scientist once accepted this idea, so it might be worth considering. True silence is not created by will or thought. It happens when you're free from everything that humans have accumulated over time. In this silence, you experience a vastness and immensity that's beyond questions. It simply is. Now, why should we meditate at all? Is meditation something natural, like breathing or seeing, or have we made it unnatural with all the different systems and practices? Consider how we've complicated meditation. We have various methods: Buddhist meditation, Tibetan meditation, Christian meditation, and Tantra meditations. Maybe you're familiar with some of these, or maybe not. We also have practices set by different gurus. The question is, are all these methods really necessary or even normal? Why do we need to take specific postures or follow detailed routines? Why practice for 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 20 minutes in the evening just to calm the mind? And then, after achieving a bit of peace, we go on with our day, often getting back to our usual distractions. These are real issues. True meditation should be more about understanding and not just about following a routine. Traditionally, meditation is thought of as a way to quiet the mind and make it capable of observation. It's often about focusing intensely on one thing, reducing all other thoughts to achieve concentration. But have these methods really worked for you? The speaker has tried various forms of meditation and found that none of them were particularly meaningful. The key question is, who is the one controlling and who is being controlled in meditation? In our daily lives, we are always dealing with control. We try to control our emotions and our thinking. We believe that by practicing a system, we can control our mind and make it less reactive. But is this just making the mind more mechanical and dull over time? Now, why do we seek experiences through meditation? Maybe it's because we want something more fulfilling than what we have now, whether it's through drugs or other experiences. But why is there this constant craving for more experiences? A clear mind doesn't need experiences. It's a light unto itself. The idea of achieving enlightenment or experiencing truth is flawed, because for there to be an experience, there must be someone experiencing it. If there's no experiencer, there's no experience at all. Yet we are often attached to our desire for experiences and keep seeking more. Current meditation practices, which include following specific systems, proper breathing, or sitting in certain positions, are often about craving greater or ultimate experiences. All this effort and struggle to achieve a state of enlightenment or peace is a never-ending cycle. We keep struggling to end our struggles, hoping for some future moment when we will be free of conflict. This ongoing struggle is essentially a trap of time. The real question is, can we end this struggle entirely? That might be the true essence of enlightenment, having no shadow of conflict at all. The concept of meditation has been misunderstood, both in the East and the West. The term itself means to think deeply, to reflect, to explore, but it has become something different from what it originally intended. Meditation is a complex issue, like most human problems, and it has little value if we haven't built the right foundation for it. The foundation includes righteous behavior and freedom from fear, and this foundation itself is part of meditation. Meditation isn't a separate activity from daily life, it encompasses everything. This needs to be understood from the start. Meditation isn't just something you do for 20 minutes in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and then ignore for the rest of the day. When true meditation happens, it's extraordinary, and we need to explore it together. I'm not here to tell you how to meditate. That's too simplistic. One of the first things is to be completely self-reliant, to be your own guiding light. This light can't be given by someone else, nor can you borrow it from another person. If you rely on someone else's light, it's like using a candle that can be blown out. But if you can discover what it means to be a light to yourself, then exploring that is already part of meditation. So we're going to explore what it means to be a light to oneself and understand why it's so crucial. We're used to accepting authority, whether it's a priest, a book, a guru, or someone who claims to know. In spiritual matters, there should be no authority because it prevents you from being truly free to explore and understand what meditation means for yourself. If you're truly interested in understanding meditation, not just how to do it, but what meditation really means and how it moves and flows, you need to think about authority in this context. Authority means someone who starts something, like an author. When we look to someone else to tell us how to meditate, we're giving them authority, and in doing so, we're limiting our own freedom. Just as in a dictatorship or totalitarian state, where there is no freedom, if you let someone else's authority dictate your meditation, you lose your freedom in the process. So if you really want to explore meditation deeply, you must be completely free from any kind of authority, including the authority of the person speaking to you, like me. If you simply follow what I say, you miss the essence of what meditation truly is. You need to be very aware of how authority works and how it can limit you. This means recognizing the unimportance of authority both from others and from your own experiences and conclusions, which can become prejudices. You have to free yourself from all forms of authority, both external and internal, to truly understand meditation. Now, when we talk about the word experience for a moment, when you say, "I understand, so I must be right," you're relying on your own authority. This kind of thinking can make it really hard to delve deeply into meditation. If you want to truly understand it, you have to be your own guide. Being a light to yourself means you're also a light to the world, because the world is connected to you, and you're connected to it. So first, you need to grasp that no one can guide you or tell you if you're making progress. You have to stand alone in your meditation practice. This means you need to be fully self-aware, understanding your own nature, your thoughts, feelings, and the whole structure of yourself. This self-awareness is crucial. You shouldn't rely on descriptions from others or what you think you are, or what you think you should be. Instead, focus on what's actually happening inside you. It's challenging to be truly aware of what's going on within yourself because we often look at ourselves through the lens of past experiences and knowledge. When you observe yourself with this background, you're not truly seeing what's happening now. To observe yourself properly, you need freedom from past influences. Only then can you start to see your true nature. This might be difficult, but it's essential to give your full attention to this process. Many people won't explain this to you because they have their own agendas, like forming groups or organizations. So to truly understand yourself, you must observe yourself in the present moment. The key is to observe without letting past experiences and conclusions color your view. Observing the present from the perspective of past experiences isn't real observation. True observation happens when there is no influence from the past. Do you understand this? Observing the present moment is crucial. The past meeting the present needs to stop right there, in the now. If you let the past influence the present becomes just another extension of the past or future, never truly being the present. True observation only happens in the present moment. When you're experiencing feelings like anger or greed, observe them as they are. Don't judge or condemn them, just watch them and let them unfold and then fade away. Do you see the beauty in this? We're usually taught to suppress or direct our emotions in certain ways. What I'm suggesting is that you observe your emotions, like anger or greed, without letting past experiences influence you. By allowing these feelings to arise and dissipate through observation, you may find that they eventually vanish entirely. Have you ever tried this? Give it a go and see for yourself. By observing emotions without choice or judgment, you allow them to change and transform radically. Scientists also note that when you observe something under a microscope, the act of observation itself can alter what you're looking at. Similarly, observing yourself without past influences can bring about change. So, to truly be aware of yourself in the present, without any preconceived notions or judgments, allows the self, the me, to change dramatically. This process means that authority has no place. When someone claims to have all the answers or says, "I know how to do this," they are irrelevant to this process. There is no middleman between your observation and the truth, whatever that truth may be. By being your own light, you don't need anyone to tell you how to live or what to do. The act of observing itself brings about change. The first thing to learn is that you need to be your own light. It's extremely challenging to break free from the tradition of needing guidance. This is why gurus from India are becoming so prevalent worldwide. They're often just rephrasing old ideas in new words. Many of these so-called top gurus have come to see me, and though they leave with respect, they continue on their own paths. To truly observe without distortion, you need freedom from any kind of authority. This means the search for new experiences should come to an end. Let me explain why. Every day we encounter different kinds of experiences, sexual experiences, reading experiences, and so on. The word experience means to go through something and then move on, not to keep recording it. When you record experiences, they become memories, and these memories can distort your ability to observe things clearly. For example, if you are a Christian, your beliefs, rituals, and dogmas have shaped your thinking for thousands of years. You may seek spiritual experiences within this framework because that's how you've been conditioned. Similarly, in India, people are conditioned by their many gods and religious practices. They have visions and experiences that align with their conditioning. So, when you look for spiritual experiences because you're bored with physical ones, you will only find what your background has prepared you to see. In other words, the demand for experience is influenced by your conditioning. To understand this, you must be aware of how your background affects your experiences and realize that these experiences are not truly new or pure. What does it mean to experience something? To have an experience, there must be someone who is doing the experiencing. This experiencer is shaped by their desires, beliefs, and conditioning. If this person wants to experience something they call God or nirvana, they will have that experience. But it will be colored by their previous knowledge and expectations. Experience involves recognition, which means you already know something about it, so it's not truly new. Therefore, a mind that seeks new experiences is actually just replaying old patterns and cannot truly encounter something original or new. So, to really understand meditation, you need to let go of the desire for new experiences. This can be very challenging because most of us prefer an easy, comfortable life. When faced with something demanding or difficult, like deep meditation, we might shy away and look for something easier. To meditate effectively, you must avoid relying on any form of authority or seeking experiences. This means there must be no experiencer, no one looking for experiences. Next, you need to observe your fears, pleasures, sorrows, and the complexities of your daily life and relationships very carefully. Observation here means just watching without trying to change or judge what you see. When you have fear, pleasure, or sorrow, these emotions distort your perception. To learn about meditation, Your mind must be free from these distortions and understand daily relationships deeply. In relationships, we often interact based on our own images or assumptions about others, which prevents real connection. Understanding and overcoming this is crucial before you can dive deeply into meditation. This is why many people don't meditate properly. They treat it as just another hobby or add-on to their lives. Once you've established a deep understanding of these aspects, you can then explore whether you can control your thoughts. You'll find that many meditation practices, whether in India, Zen monasteries, or Tibetan traditions, emphasize controlling thought because it's seen as the main obstacle to a calm and still mind. All these systems, Zen, Tibetan, Buddhist, and Hindu meditation, emphasize controlling thought. They all suggest that you need specific methods to do this. If you've explored these systems or listened to any teachers or gurus, you might have heard them insist on the need to control thought. I hope you don't rely on gurus, but if you do, you should know that they all stress controlling thought. One such system is mantra yoga, also known as transcendental meditation. The term mantra refers to a word or phrase used to help concentrate the mind. It can be something as simple as Coca-Cola. Don't laugh, I'm serious. The idea is that repeating a word or phrase will help you focus and control your thoughts. However, when you dig into it, you need to ask, who is trying to control the thoughts? You see, if you're trying to control your thoughts, who is doing the controlling? You might spend years trying to control your thoughts, but they keep slipping away. So, you need to investigate who the controller is. The process of controlling thought creates a constant struggle and conflict between the thought that drifts away and the thought that tries to control it. Essentially, you're dealing with one thought trying to dominate and control another thought. Now, is the controller itself just another thought? Pay close attention to this because if you don't, you might miss the point. Here's what's happening. Thought is always moving, chattering, and thinking about various things. For instance, when you try to focus on something, your mind might wander off to thoughts about your shoes or other distractions. At the same time, another part of your mind says, I shouldn't let this happen. I need to control it. Both of these are forms of thought. One part tries to take control and suppress the wandering thoughts. It's important to see this clearly and understand it for yourself, not just because I'm saying it. This is how it works. Thought wants to control the wandering thoughts so it can achieve something like experiencing nirvana or another goal. There's a clear division here. Observe it carefully. There's the controller and the thoughts that need to be controlled. This creates a conflict between the two. Various systems and methods are designed to help with controlling thought. For example, some methods involve becoming very aware of every detail of your actions, like your breathing and posture. Personally, I find all these details overwhelming and unnecessary. What's crucial here is to understand if there's just thinking, without separating it into a thinker and thoughts, or a thinker trying to control thoughts. So, whether you're thinking about something trivial like bootlaces, or something profound like God, it's all still just thinking. We're not focusing on how to control thought. Instead, we need to understand the entire process of thinking. When you're fully aware, you realize there is only thinking, no separate controller or wandering thought. So, if there's only thinking, why should it be stopped? Thinking is essentially a movement through time from one idea to another. The real question is whether this movement of time can come to an end, not just how to stop thinking. Have you grasped the question? Traditionally, meditation and various teachings focus on control. Where there is control, there is effort, conflict, and suppression, which often lead to all kinds of psychological issues. So, is it possible to live without any form of control? This doesn't mean doing whatever you want without boundaries. Instead, we're asking a deeper question. Can you live your daily life, psychologically speaking, without any control at all? This is a serious question because we're used to a life dominated by control. To understand a life without control, you need to explore it deeply. Control often arises from comparison. For instance, if you compare yourself to someone you admire and try to be like them because they seem more intelligent or spiritual, you're creating a form of control. If there's no comparison at all psychologically, what happens? I am simply what I am, without any movement towards something I think is better. So, what changes when there's no comparison? For example, if I compare myself to you and see you as clever and bright, I might feel dull by comparison. Or, does the very idea of being dull make me feel dull? Do you see what I mean? When we visit a museum, we often compare different artworks, like Michelangelo's to others, and decide which is better. This is how we've been trained to think, from school, where we're encouraged to be better than others, to exams and beyond, all involving comparison and effort. Now, when you understand how this movement of measurement and comparison is unreal, you come face to face with what is. You can only meet what is when you have energy. This energy gets wasted in comparison. So when you stop comparing, you reclaim that energy to truly observe what is. With this newfound energy, observing the present moment can lead to a profound transformation. Thought is often divided into the controller and the controlled, but in reality, there's only thinking, no separate controller or controlled, just the process of thinking. Thinking is a movement through time, measured and ongoing. So, can this movement of thinking come to an end naturally, without any effort or control? When you try to stop thinking through effort, thinking is still at work. You're just deceiving yourself into thinking there's a difference between the thinker and the thought. So, my question is different. It's about understanding that thinking itself is all there is. The thinker and the thought are the same thing. There is no separate thinker without thought. Therefore, can this thinking, which is a movement through time, ever come to an end? In other words, can time stop? Let me explain. Time is essentially made up of the past. There's no future time on its own. Future time only exists when the past interacts with the present, changes it, and continues moving forward. So, time is a movement from the past, constantly evolving but never stopping. We are suggesting that this movement must come to a halt. This movement includes the whole process of knowledge and everything that has been known. Unless you can be free from this continuous movement, you won't have the freedom to truly observe and understand something new. So, we're saying that this entire movement needs to stop. You can't stop the movement of thought by using willpower or desire, which are both forms of control. So how can you end this movement naturally and effortlessly without even realizing you've done it? Have you ever given up something that brings you immense pleasure instantly without effort? Not out of pain or sorrow, but something you genuinely enjoy. Have you ever managed to drop it immediately without any struggle? We are constantly living in the past. We think about past hurts, past desires. Our lives are shaped by what has happened before. This past is always influencing the present and becomes part of our memory. So we're really living in the past. Our question is, can we stop this constant movement from the past? You can't stop it with tricks or repeated actions. The past is a continuous movement, shifting through the present to the future. The present moment, however, is still and immovable. The past is always moving forward, while the present moment stands still. When the movement of the past meets the present moment, which doesn't move, it can come to a stop. This isn't just something to understand on a surface level. It needs to be deeply felt and realized. The present moment is where the past, which is in constant motion, meets stillness and ends. So, thought, which is a movement from the past, comes to an end when it fully encounters the present moment. This idea needs deep reflection. Now, when you meditate, is it something you do on purpose? I'm not sure if you've ever really meditated before. Meditation isn't just sitting and thinking about how to do something better, like a carpenter planning how to build a house. That's not the kind of meditation I'm talking about here. We're talking about a type of meditation where you're trying to reach something beyond the usual everyday experiences that your senses pick up. So, let me ask again, is meditation something you do deliberately? Like, do you meditate because you want to reach some specific state? Some might say, yeah, I meditate in this way or that way, following a Tibetan method or another type of method. But all those methods are deliberate, right? They are intentional acts. And when you meditate like this, following a specific technique, you're just reinforcing your own sense of self, your ego. You get what I'm saying? It's like you decided to come through that door to explore this topic with me. That's deliberate too. But think about it. If meditation isn't supposed to be deliberate, then what is it? Most people haven't really thought about this deeply. A lot of conscious meditation involves taking a specific posture, focusing on your breathing, concentrating hard, and using your willpower. All of these actions are still centered around the self. They're all about achieving some kind of result that you've already set your mind on, like peace or calm. So, this kind of meditation just ends up making your ego, your sense of me, even stronger. It encourages you to feel more separate, more isolated, and that leads to conflict and division. Now the question is there a kind of meditation that isn't like this? Someone might say there's a contradiction here because how can any kind of insight or awareness that doesn't come from the self happen when the self is always in action? The self, or ego, is always doing something. So how can something beyond the ego act at the same time? The answer is that it can't. Insight or true understanding can only happen when the self isn't in control. The problem is that we often create an image of what insight should be, like thinking it's something we can achieve if we just do certain things, like a reward waiting at the end of the effort. But the truth is, the moment you try to put your self-centered nature aside and just observe, maybe you can have an insight. What happens then? That insight often gets remembered, turned into an experience, and once it's just a memory, you've lost the actual insight. Now you're just clinging to the memory of it, and that's building up your ego again. So instead of being free, you're back to being stuck in the same cycle. Now, is meditation something you do on purpose, as a conscious effort? Many people meditate by following certain practices, trying to quiet their minds, calm their brains, or achieve some sense of stillness. But let's think about this. What's the difference between someone who meditates to achieve inner peace and someone who works hard to make money? At the core, both are chasing something. They're both aiming for some kind of achievement. One might be seen as a spiritual achievement like peace or enlightenment, while the other is a more ordinary everyday goal like financial success. But really, they're both after a result, right? From this perspective, that's not true meditation. Any kind of meditation that involves deliberate effort, desire, or willpower isn't real meditation. It's important to ask, is there a form of meditation that isn't driven by thought or a conscious desire to get somewhere? Is there a kind of meditation that you're not actively doing or even aware of in the usual sense? Any meditation that is planned out, organized, or done with effort isn't really meditation. That's pretty clear. You could sit cross-legged, focus on your breathing, and meditate for your whole life. But if you're doing it to achieve something, you're not reaching what meditation truly is. It's just a cause and effect loop. You do something to get something else, and then that outcome becomes another cause for more effort. It's a never-ending cycle. So, is there a way to meditate that isn't based on desire, will, or effort? The speaker believes there is, but you shouldn't just accept that at face value. You need to question it, doubt it, and examine it thoroughly, just like the speaker has done. Is there a meditation that isn't planned or structured? To explore that, you first need to understand the mind, which is conditioned and limited. Our brain is used to working within limits, and it tries to grasp things that are beyond its usual experience, the limitless, the immeasurable, the timeless. If such a thing as the timeless even exists. To understand meditation, it's also important to understand sound. Sound and silence go hand in hand. If you don't fully understand the depth of sound, then silence is just another concept that seems separate. Sound is everywhere, in words, in the beating of your heart, in the universe with its countless stars and vast skies. We're surrounded by sound, and often we've made that sound unbearable, which is why we seek peace and quiet. But when you truly listen to sound, that very act of listening is silence. Silence and sound aren't opposites, they're connected. So real meditation isn't something you can force or organize. It starts with the very first step, freeing yourself from all your psychological wounds, your fears, anxieties, loneliness, sadness, and everything else you've accumulated over time. That's the foundation, the starting point. And here's the key. The first step is also the last step. Once you take that first step, it's done. But most of us are unwilling to take that step because we don't really want to be free. We prefer to depend. We rely on power, other people, our environment, our past experiences, our knowledge. We are constantly dependent on something. And because of that, we're never truly free from dependence and fear. Ending sorrow is where real love begins. When there is true love, there is compassion. And this compassion carries its own intelligence, an intelligence that guides action without conflict. When actions come from this place of intelligence, they are true and genuine, without inner struggle. Now, there can be no authority in meditation, no instructor, no guide, no one you can rely on. Think about it. Throughout history, people have relied on leaders, politicians, gurus, and priests. But where has all that reliance gotten us? People are still lost, still confused, still in conflict. So to truly understand meditation, you have to let go of all forms of authority, even the authority of knowledge. Can you see what this means? It means your mind must be completely free, unconditioned, and not tied to tradition or the desire to become something. Our brains are conditioned to always be becoming, from a lower position to a higher one, from apprentice to master, from student to expert. Physically, this makes sense. We grow in our careers or skills. But psychologically, we're also always trying to become something better, something more, like going from I'm not good to I will be good, or I will be enlightened. But true enlightenment isn't about achieving something over time. It doesn't happen at the end of your life or after years of practice. Enlightenment is about having a clear, uncluttered mind right now, a mind that isn't bogged down by knowledge, thoughts, or the need to measure and compare. When your brain is free from all this, that's real meditation. It's not about measuring or achieving, it's about complete freedom from all that. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought deeply about the idea of attention, but it's very different from concentration. Concentration means trying to focus your mind on something specific, even though your thoughts might wander. This involves some level of resistance because you're constantly battling to keep your focus. On the other hand, attention doesn't involve resistance at all. To truly be attentive, you need to be fully engaged with your body, your heart, your mind, everything you have. This means understanding and letting go of any kind of resistance. Resistance often comes from fear. Fear of not achieving, not getting what you want, or not having certain experiences. This fear prevents you from being fully attentive. When you give your attention, there isn't a separate part of you that's doing the attending. It might sound a bit abstract, but we'll get into it. For instance, when you're deeply interested in something, you give your full attention without any resistance. You're not consciously aware of a separate self that is attending. You're just fully present. The brain is incredibly capable, able to accomplish amazing things like space travel or creating technology. However, it's not always in order. The brain craves order and gets upset by disorder. For example, if your day has been chaotic and confusing, your brain tries to sort things out while you sleep. If it doesn't get this chance, it can become disturbed and unclear. You might have noticed this yourself. If you review your day or reflect on what's happened, your brain can organize itself better, leading to a clearer, more sensitive state. Attention means your brain is quiet and not reacting to distractions. It's not something you can just practice like a skill. You can't say, I'll be more attentive tomorrow and expect it to work just by trying. Our conditioning often makes us think we need to practice something we don't fully understand, believing it will make us happy. What's really important isn't how long you can stay attentive, but understanding and observing when you're not attentive. When the mind becomes aware of how inattentive it is, that very awareness can turn into attention. Are we all following this? We're trying to understand something that people have always sought. Even someone who is very committed to their beliefs might occasionally look up at the sky, a cloud, or a tree and appreciate its beauty. But beauty isn't just in the thing itself, like a building or an object. I won't go into too much detail about that now. When the brain is completely still, which means being fully attentive, the entire mind, including the brain, becomes profoundly calm. The quality of this stillness is important. This stillness can either be achieved through superficial methods or can come naturally and effortlessly when you deeply understand yourself. Effort creates distortion, so true stillness comes without trying. When the mind is entirely free of distortion and still, there's a chance to experience something beyond time and thought. This is the only way to perceive something vast and immeasurable. You can't force or invite this vastness. No matter how educated, scholarly, or disciplined your mind is, it can't grasp something without limits or time. What's important is not to search for this vastness, but to understand it. Wisdom, which is more profound than saintliness, comes with the end of sorrow. To understand sorrow, you need to understand yourself completely. In this deep understanding of yourself, you find quietness and beauty, in essence, is love. Without this love and understanding, the vast and nameless reality cannot be experienced. Thank you for listening.